Hi guys, I'm recording this on Sunday, July 6th. And yep, we know no rest around here. I want to show you something. Here we go. Oh, hope this is working. Yes, it is. All right, so we used to rely on Google years ago, and we found all kinds of amazing things on Google because Google wasn't censored. Of course, Google is now heavily censored, and that's thanks to Eric Schmidt, the Democratic Party operative, pro-genocide as well, of course. Um, but now we've got AI, and I have to say that we're getting some good stuff. When AI was new, I asked them about this person named Hasti Tagi, and you'll see why I was interested in her. She was part of let's remember this, Bill Gates funded a pre-COVID tabletop exercise known as Event 201. And for those that don't know or have forgotten, as I have, that tabletop exercise was held pre-COVID, before COVID was even a thing, on October 18th, 2019. And it was co-hosted by our good friends, John Hopkins, Center for Health Security, and the World Economic Forum, and Klaus Schwab, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which I wonder if they have to change the name because when she figured out what he was doing with Epstein, she left the marriage. Um, anyway, this is so fascinating. I don't know if this part's accurate, but if it is, it's really concerning. The desktop exercise war game simulated a novel coronavirus pandemic. Now, I'm going to double check if that's true, but they say it is, so I'm going to go with it for now. So who is this person, Hasti Tagi? She was the vice president and executive advisor of NBC, Universal Media. That's MSNBC, and all those corrupt and horrible human beings at that channel. And what was her role? Well, it was to serve as one of the players in the simulated pandemic tabletop, bringing expertise from the media world. Her role included dealing with crisis communication, shaping public messaging, and countering misinformation. Okay? Remember, October 18th, 2019, nobody even knows that the COVID thing's coming. All right. Her role was pretty darn important. Let's take a look at what the conclusions were of this tabletop exercise. So number one, there was a problem. They predicted a tidal wave of mis and disinformation that was going to undercut the public's willingness to cooperate with health measures. Again, October 2019. There is no COVID crisis yet, but they somehow anticipated that there were going to be people like me and thousands of others who said, hey, this looks like bullshit, which, by the way, we were all right. So the idea was to flood the zone. This is on the other guy's side. This is what the tabletop people said. Well, there are people who are going to be distributing what they call mis and disinformation, which turned out to be accurate information analysis. So what we need to do is flood the zone with fast, accurate, consistent information, i.e. their propaganda. And flooding the zone is very simple. You can only put one headline on the top of a paper at a time. You can only run one leading news item on a TV newscast at a time. So if you flood the zone with your bullshit, nobody else can get their perspective in. Now, we need briefings. Remember all those briefings? Remember, I don't know if you're New York State, we had Andrew Cuomo in his little military jacket, pseudo-military jacket, briefing the public every day while he was killing nursing home victims, nursing home patients. While he was screaming for vents, we need more vents. Well, if they had any more vents, they would have killed 2 million instead of the 900,000 it appears they killed. So anyway, we need to flood the zone. We need televised briefings, which we had. We need to use traditional broadcasters as the spine and then have social media algorithms cross-promote their bullshit. Who was handling this thing? Well, Matthew Harrington of Edelman Trust Barometer. That is a division of Edelman, which is a very sinister company. It's a PR company. They manage, as all PR companies do, to stay out of the limelight. They are among the scum of the earth. And Matthew Harrington contributed that little bit. What else? We may need to shut down the internet to squelch rumors. Okay, or some governments were going to be tempted to shut down the internet. Now, here's what Hasti Tagi of NBC Universal said. She said, "Don't do that. Don't do that." Okay, Hasti Tagi. Um, Probably good thinking. That would have really caused some disconcerting feelings. Now we're going to get competing, often contradictory messages from officials and companies. Well, we don't want people to discuss things. We have an agenda. You're supposed to follow the agenda, right? So we don't want competing messages or thoughts or data, especially if they contradict us. So here we go. And this came from Taggy herself, because she was somehow involved in Texas Children's Hospital's scam of a Ebola briefing. By the way, this is the hospital that fired doctors and nurses for speaking the truth. Texas Children. They must have a very good relationship with Fauci, who apparently has a very good relationship with Hasti Tagi, which we'll find out about later. But anyway, make a map of who people already trust, and then, in other words, people that we control, and then give these people ready-made shareables, talking points, and FAQs so they can amplify the same facts. There will be viral falsehoods created. They will create financial and security spillovers. Yes, indeed. Okay, social media firms must abandon the just a platform stance and act as broadcasters that demote false claims. In other words, we're not going to let people talk anymore. We're going to identify the stuff we don't want people to know, and we're going to attack the people that say the things that are true that we don't want them to say. Governments should be ready to prosecute egregious bad actors. How do you like that? And what were the practical implications? Pre-booking airtime and content syndication. Be ready to hand over daily slots to the World Health Organization and the CDC in an emergency. Well, that's clearly what they did, right? Fauci was on TV every 5 seconds. Use tools created by Gates to score rumors and inject rebuttals before the myths trend. In other words, control social media. If anybody has anything accurate to say, shut them down. Trust voiced repositories, okay? So have a database of people that you can count on to go along with whatever we're saying, and those are the people that will end up in the news. I don't know what this bit is here. Real-time rumor analytics hubs. We need a dashboard, which they probably had. I don't know if it's ever been revealed, so that they could track the harmful narratives, track the surges, and then flood the media with counter effects, or whatever you call it, counter operations. So Hasti Tagi, let's see what her relationship. Oops, let's see what her relationship with Fauci was, if there was one. There may not be one. If there is one, we don't know. But this is great. This is what Google used to be, and not even this good. Um, let's see. All right. See how this works? It's doing this would have taken me hours and hours and hours and hours and hours. Um, let's see. It's thinking. It's looking all over. Okay, it's improving my question, and because they don't really see a direct, they went out to lunch together deal. So there's no documented. It's thinking out loud, right? I don't know if you can read these things as it flies by. It's going to give us a conclusion in a second. There's no direct connection, but we can highlight their professional interactions. Um, waiting, waiting, waiting. So this is good. You know, they took away with one hand and now they're accidentally giving back with another. When we were first using ChatGPT, oh God, 2 years ago, this thing was not as nowhere near as efficient, and it was highly, highly, highly. Well, it appeared to be highly censored, but now in retrospect, I'm realizing that it was just highly stupid. It couldn't answer any intelligent questions, and therefore it would spout nonsense. And the nonsense, of course, it would spout would be the consensus, the official consensus. But apparently, that has been determined to be not a good product that people don't want to buy. And so they've actually jazzed this thing up a bit, and it actually works pretty well. And right now, again, what it's doing is searching, searching, searching. Again, this would have been all day worth of searching, assuming I could even find this stuff, because Google, as we know, has done a great deal to block searches. Okay, so here's where their paths crossed. Oh, of course. This is so obvious. She was a vice president and executive advisor, chief of staff, basically, at NBC Media. Well, how often was Anthony Fauci? Uh, Taggy controlled the executive strategic communications strategies at NBC. Well, surely they would have she would have been dealing with Anthony Fauci and staff. Okay. How about Davos? Well, oh, how do you like that? She led NBC's Universal Strategic Partnerships with the World Economic Forum. So, those were the guys that pushed the COVID fraud. But, basically Bill Gates, World Economic Forum, and gee, NBC. How do you like that? She was the feature speaker at the Davos Agenda 2022. The featured, the number one. And of course, Fauci operates within the World Economic Foundation Public Health Communication Network, i.e. lies are us. And then how about this pandemic tabletop exercise? Well, we know that Taghi was one of the formal players. Um, Now, interesting, Fauci was not listed as a player, observer, or organizer. And you know what? If I were setting up this scam, I would make sure Fauci has stayed far away from it too. Didn't need to be involved because we could just advise him and via back channel methods. And then, of course, he could have his input via back channel methods too. So no formal connection between Fauci and the pandemic tabletop exercise, even though Gates and Fauci are joined at the hip. Um, all right, key public messaging. Yep, she was talking about the need to flood the zone. And what did Fauci say? Um, it could change. I don't know. Both highlighted that misinformation was a strategic threat. All right, so what else? No personal contacts, but definitely they shared. They had to have met each other in the booking process. He was on all of NBC's outlets constantly. She built a strong relationship with the Forum. That would be the World Economic Forum. And then, of course, Fauci has been all over there too. Um, why the confusion? There's no confusion here. There's no confusion. Strictly professional relationship and indirect. No signs of joint decision making or private collaboration. Well, if it's private, there would be no signs, correct? Not that it matters, but they're just two sharks swimming in the same water. Anyway, I just wanted to demonstrate this. This is helping us quite a bit and making a lot of things possible that weren't possible before. Is AI going to take over the world? I don't think so. It's kind of, when it's done correctly, it's just like putting a visit to the research library on steroids. And of course, you have to check everything. And of course, you can't rely on their conclusions. And they don't know, and AI, just like the books in a research library, don't know everything. It knows a lot. And again, this would have been a multi-hour task for us to take on, and we were able to do it in as quickly as you saw. Um, so that's the news. That's what we're working on. We're using all the tools available to us, and in this case, they've let a tool out of the bag that is actually quite helpful to people that know how to use it. I don't see a lot of people using this as in the mainstream news outlets or in the alternative news outlets. I don't see a lot of people doing that. Okay. All right. I've got someone who wants to talk to me, so I'm going to say goodbye.
Brasscheck TV, free to you, not free to us. We've got a server bill, we've got an email software bill, we've got a tech helper bill, and that happens every month. So to everybody that is supporting us financially, that's paying for their subscription in one way or another, we really appreciate it. If you're not, consider doing so. Everybody's got money for the newspaper and the cable bill and all that. Do you have money for media that's actually serving you? That's really the issue here. And when you help us, it allows us to get this information out to the world. So thanks to all our supporters, and if you're not a supporter already, please consider becoming one.